Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. I'm Louise Butt. I'm the Business Development Manager for the South Coast Centre of Excellence in Satellite Applications. We're part of the Satellite Applications Catapult and we're hosted by the University of Portsmouth. Today, this is the first of a planned podcast series where we'll be talking to key contacts in the UK space network, hoping to bring you more information about opportunities. As part of our aim to support organisations and businesses to use and exploit space data and technologies. Today, I'd like to introduce Tom Greenwood. Tom is the European Space Agency's Regional Ambassador for the Business Applications Programme. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Louise. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the kind introduction. For everyone listening, I'm one of 7 regional ambassadors in the UK, providing support to UK companies through the European Space Agency Business Applications Programme.
Great. Let's get started, shall we? First of all, what is, for those who don't know, the European Space Agency? What does it do?
Sure, European Space Agency is Europe's gateway to space. So its mission is to shape the development of European space capability and ensure that investment in space continues to deliver benefits for Europe and the rest of the world. So generally, activities split into 4 pillars. So we have the science and exploration pillar, which is probably the one that most people are familiar with in terms of human spaceflight and interplanetary missions. We have the enabling and support pillar, which is all about launches and rockets and the manufacture and operations of spacecraft and satellites. We have safety and security, which is looking at asteroid strikes, space debris, cyber security, those kind of things. And the 4th pillar is what we call applications. So that is looking at the use of space data. So things like satellite navigation, communications, and Earth observation. So everything I'm going to be talking about today falls into that applications pillar.
Great. So perhaps you can elaborate a bit more about business applications.
Sure, yeah. So ESA Business Applications is a funding mechanism that falls within the European Space Agency to fund commercial services that make use of space data and address challenges on the ground. So it's one of 3 parallel support mechanisms that form the ESA Space Solutions Network, which is now the largest innovation support network in the world. So we have business incubation centres, primarily aimed at startups. We have technology transfer brokers, which are primarily aimed at spin in and spin out technology from the space sector. And we have the business applications programme. And together, our mission really is to identify new domains which might benefit from the integration of space assets, create more awareness within different stakeholder communities about what can be done with space, act as a broker between ESA, industry, and the end user community to ultimately stimulate the development and submission of new ideas, and then provide funding to bring those ideas to life.
Okay. You've mentioned, both of us have mentioned space data. Perhaps you could give a few examples of what you mean by space data and, the kind of exciting innovations that companies are using.
Sure. I mean, space is involved in our everyday lives a lot more than people realise, and it's our mission really to make everyone more aware and enable the use of that data. So I've mentioned Earth observation, images from space, satellite navigation, and communication. And really, we're inviting companies to make use of that and integrate that into new commercial services. So some everyday examples would be things like turn-by-turn navigation apps that we're all familiar with, perhaps providing live traffic updates or diversions to help speed up our journeys. We're all used to ordering taxis and couriers services via smartphone apps and tracking deliveries and all those kind of things. And all that's empowered by satellite navigation. There are some less obvious uses of space data as well. So there are lots of companies in the UK that use Earth observation or images from satellites to monitor the health of their crops and the performance of their harvests. So things like cereal crops and vineyards, you can use satellite images to monitor and forecast your yield, how much you're going to grow that year. There are companies that are looking at optimizing cycle routes through cities by gathering lots and lots of data on hundreds or thousands of bike journeys, putting all that data together and sharing it with city planners so that investment in new cycle infrastructure can be put in the best place that's going to serve the community in the best possible way. And I mean, we've even had a company in our business incubation centre this year develop an app that can tell you how busy your local supermarket is, which has been developed in response to COVID-19 and is hugely useful and good to tell you about social distancing. If you want to avoid shops at their busiest periods and wait till they're quieter, or go to a quieter shop, then you can use this app to do that. So there's lots and lots of different things you can do with space data, and yeah, we want to empower companies to make the most of that.
You mentioned COVID-19 there. It's obviously an area of interest to quite a lot of organisations. Have you noticed any major changes, since the UK entered the lockdown period back in March?
So the programme's been fully accessible throughout the whole lockdown period. The whole Space Solutions network is working remotely and attending online events. We're still fully accessible. So we've seen probably a consistent number of applications through our open call. We have a funding call that's always open throughout the year to any sector. That's been consistent throughout pre and post lockdown. But we've actually seen a slight uplift in applications through our specific funding competitions. So we've run some competitions around emergency response to COVID-19 in Italy and in the UK, and we actually in the last few days we published a funding competition on post COVID-19 recovery and preparing for post lockdown recovery. So we've probably seen a slight uplift in applications in those areas.
Okay. Obviously, the UK Space Agency is playing a role in some of the calls you've just mentioned. How does the UK Space Agency fit into the picture with ESA more generally?
Sure. So we're a membership organisation. So the European Space Agency has member states all over Europe. Each one of those obviously pays a membership fee and subscribes to a different number of programmes. So the UK are the largest contributor to this programme, and we've got a very, very good relationship with all the key staff members there. So all the funding that comes from the UK will go back to UK companies. And as part of the application process, you as an applicant will need to gain support from the UK Space Agency in order to get some funding. So that's part of my role, is to introduce you to the right people at the UK Space Agency in order to get their support.
Okay, that's great. Is there anything else that ESA is doing to support kind of the COVID-19 kind of bounce back?
Sure, yeah. There are some research activities taking place. So the Earth Observation Directorate at ESA have helped put together the RACE dashboard, which stands for the Rapid Action on Coronavirus and Earth Observation. And it's an interactive dashboard anyone can access. It provides you with lots of data and information and maps around some key socio-economic indicators to help monitor the impact of COVID-19. So, for example, you can access data sets that show you different number of vehicles in cities and car parks, which can be used as an indicator of economic activity, what the economic impact will have been in different regional areas. You can look at shipping activity and use that as an indicator of again, economic activity and trade. And there are different agricultural data sets, and it's really, really worthwhile having a little look around on there, because it's a fantastic dashboard to help monitor the impacts. More specifically on the funding programmes, ESA have also made some efforts to streamline the application process. So the UK COVID-19 call that I mentioned is actually the fastest review process that ESA have ever implemented within this programme. And obviously, we are really keen to get funding to businesses so that they can really start to implement these projects as quickly as possible. And similarly, ESA have sped up the process for paying invoices. So if you're a small company or a startup and you're waiting to receive funding before you can start implementing your project, this process is now much, much faster than it was before. So ESA are making efforts where they can to try and help speed up that process.
That's really, really encouraging. Good to see that, there's a lot of forward thinking about, the future. And on that note, what trends do you foresee coming down the track over the next 12 months or so?
Sure. So I've already mentioned that we have an open call. So that's open all year round to any sector. So that will be open for the rest of the year, and we're looking at funding projects across a range of sectors. But we also have some upcoming targeted calls. So we have two opening in July actually. One's called Plasticless Society, which is looking at addressing the issue of marine plastics, which of course is a key global topic at the minute. We have Space and 5G Convergence, which is looking at addressing UK government priorities in the logistics sector. We have a Space for Rail opportunity, which is looking at optimising the performance of railways. And the most recent addition to the funding opportunities we have is something called Aspire with ESA, and that's really looking at funding projects that are specifically addressing sustainable development goals. So although there will undoubtedly be a key focus on health and COVID-19 for the rest of this year and beyond, we are still funding projects in a huge number of sectors.
Great. Again, thinking beyond COVID and other areas of interest, one of the topics that has been talked about a lot, probably in the last 6 months or so, is about Brexit and how that might affect activity in the UK space sector. What are your thoughts? Sure.
So this used to be the question everyone asked me first about Brexit, but that's changed now and it's COVID-19. But it's still important to talk about Brexit, obviously. So it's important to mention that ESA is not the European Union Space Agency. It is a separate organisation. So although we operate in a similar fashion in terms of we have member states that pay membership fees, those member states are not the same as the EU member states. They are slightly different. And we have a different convention, and it's a completely separate organisation. So access to this programme will be unaffected by Brexit. So UK companies will still be able to access all the funding in the same way they always have done. And we would still very much encourage collaboration with other ESA member states as well. So there are potentially services that you will not be able to access in the UK that can be provided through other ESA member states. And there's lots and lots of opportunities to network and build new contacts with other member states through the ESA Space Solutions network, and we'd very much encourage that. In terms of the national picture, obviously the UK is seen as a centre for trade and investment in Europe, particularly in the space services sector, and I don't think that will change moving forwards post-Brexit. So yeah, lots of opportunities to collaborate.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for your time today. It's been great to hear about kind of ESA, what ESA are doing, some really, really exciting opportunities, I think, coming this way. Obviously, what people are going to want to know is where can they go to find out more information?
Sure, yeah. Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to talk to you this morning. If anybody listening or watching would like to find out more about ESA Space Solutions, then we have a website, spacesolutions.esa.int, where you can find links to all the information that I've discussed, as well as the key contacts who to talk to. Or alternatively, they can get in contact with me directly. So my email address is tom.greenwood@port.ac.uk. Feel free to share the links, include them in the description for the video. And yeah, I'd be more than happy to talk to people and put them in touch with the people, the right contacts if it's not me, and just tell them a little bit more information.
Thanks again, Tom. That's been really, really helpful. And for anybody who wants to get in touch with me or the South Coast Centre of Excellence, you can contact me on louise.butt@port.ac.uk. Thanks again. Bye.